You think you hate it now, but wait till you drive it.
The Kibbe and Friends Show.
What it is, bro?
Featuring Rob Kibbe.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Justin Corndog Cornett.
New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
And show producer Bernie McPartland.
This is the DJ 3000, and it has 3 distinct varieties of inane chatter.
Talking cars.
Do you feel this vehicle is safe for highway travel?
Yes, I do.
Diving deep on the topics that matter most.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this.
And totally redeem yourself!
And the Dukes of Hazzard. Available in iTunes, Stitcher, and whatever else it is you listen on.
Turn up the volume.
The Kibbe and Friends Show.
Kibbe and Friends Show, episode number 101. Evening edition, blizzard edition, raintime edition. As we sit here, fellas, in central Iowa, it is snowing another 6 inches. That's what she said. Great. Okay, so.
It's raining here, so I'd rather deal with snow than rain, probably.
If you get rain here in the middle of winter, it makes a terrible, 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 terrible mess. I would much rather deal with the snow.
Yeah, our mud was getting dry, so Mother Nature thought we needed some more rain.
So he's Justin Corndog Cornett. Our producer is on as well. Bernie, are you there?
I am here, sir. Fully accounted for. The internet phenomenon is present.
Oh, wait. Let me call you on the chopper. Bernie, are you there? My apologies. I forgot the chopper.
He's burning up fuel.
I am here, yes.
Okay, yes. The Huey has landed. By the way, that audio clip is from a Huey.
Mm-hmm.
I rode in a Huey once.
You did?
Yes, it was awesome.
Why were you in a Huey?
It was, they had the Trail of Honors, you know, with all the bikers pass through for usually Memorial Day on their way up to D.C.
Yeah.
Usually like the week before Memorial Day, I think it is. They stop at the Harley-Davidson shop here, and they have a big display with tanks and Jeeps and helicopters and all that. And for $50, you can ride in a Huey. I thought that was well worth it. So it was pretty cool. I was on the side, and they had, I don't know what the proper name of it is, but it's on the side with the sliding door open. Mm-hmm. And when they turn it up on its side, you feel like you're going to fall out of there. But I mean, of course, you're all strapped in. I would do it again. Next time they come around, if I'm available that weekend, I'll do it again. It's fun.
That's pretty awesome. I have only been in, I think, one helicopter in my whole life, and it was not a Huey. It will always hold a special place in my heart because of Star Trek 4. You guys know that reference, I'm sure. Well, let me set the stage for you. So in Star Trek 4, they go back in time to get a pair of humpback whales because this alien probe in the future is attacking the planet Earth because it's trying to communicate with the planet Earth by sending a signal. And the signal is destroying the planet, and specifically, it's pulling the oceans apart. And it's looking for something. It's looking for whales. It's looking to talk to the whales that it used to talk to a long time ago. And they're not there in the future. So Captain Kirk goes back in time, gets some whales. Anyway, when they get back in the 80s, they have to get this stuff and to build a whale tank on their spaceship. And they have Mr. Sulu goes out and borrows a Huey to tow around some walls. This concludes our Star Trek review.
Interesting.
Star Trek 4. You can find the show in iHeartRadio, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and of course every episode goes out live right on the musclecarplace.com. So fellas, I have great news for you. This is official Kibbe and Friends breaking news. We have haters. This is what separates the men from the boys. So let me go ahead and start you off with a clip about hating, and then I'll fill you in here.
He hates these cans!
Okay, that's from the jerk. Let me set the stage for you. Now get ready. Mopar Fan 176 on iTunes has written us a bad review.
All reviews are good.
Well, except this one. It says the chemistry with the new host just isn't there. It's a buddy show with two guys who are clearly not buddies. It falls flat. For me, time spent listening to podcasts should be either informational or entertaining, This show now has no value. Rob, and he specifically says this, Rob, sometimes it's just better to declare the patient dead and move on. If it can't be done with excellence, it's not worth doing. Time to move on. Sincerely, Mopar Fan 176.
You suck.
Mopar Fan 176 figured it out. All right, I've been trying to get rid of Bernie since the day I hired him. Your name isn't even Corndog. I mean, he figured it out, right?
Yeah.
He figured it out.
You had a pretty long run, didn't you?
It's over. So, guys, thank you for the time. I've let both me Undies and Harry's know we're sending everything back. Goodbye. Or now, when I've probably told you this, or I've mentioned this in other shows, I very clearly remember getting my first negative criticism. Well, just criticism in general. The thing that sucked so much about it, and this was back in 2009, 2010 when I started Muscle Car Place, the thing that sucked about it is what the person had said I believed was true. He was pointing out things that I wasn't doing well or that I needed to do better on. And it just hurt so much for somebody to say it publicly. So I am fully aware that sometimes criticism is valid. I'm also aware that of the plethora of feedback we've gotten to, keep going. I mean, everybody misses Mike. I mean, certainly we do. But I've had more people say, hey, I'm still enjoying this. This is super fun, including a person that came to my office from Nebraska. I'm still seeing all the right signs that say, hey, keep going. I mean, our Patreon sponsorship is really basically back where it was. I mean, all the right signs have happened. I'm more curious about the type of person who actually takes the time to leave negative feedback. I would never do that. I would never actually invest that much time. Maybe I'm just chicken. So, you two losers who are dragging me down, let me know what you think. What do you have to say for yourselves?
You know how it is. You can't ever make everybody happy. That's the way I look at it.
I will chime in here. Let me tell you, what was his name again?
Mopar Fan 176. This isn't you, is it, Corndog? Just...
No, I usually go by Corndog.
Okay. Oh, my God. Never know.
Well, let me tell you what he got right. There's always value in feedback, and we value that. I know we've been through this 100 times. Let me tell you what you got right with your comments. Mm-hmm. And half of it is wrong, but some of it is right. Rob and I have been friends now I latched onto you as a friend when you actually let me go to SEMA with you back in 2012. Is that when it was, our first one?
Yes.
We've had a friendship that's been growing throughout that time there. Corndog and I are acquaintances. We're getting to know each other. We're on that friendship trail. Have we had a beer at each other's house? We've not been able to do that yet. But
he doesn't drink. See, I'm a friend. I know that. Yeah.
I hope this summer, when we get all this together. So you're right about that. Chemistry. Having a radio background and observing many, many, many teams of disc jockeys on the air over the years, chemistry is a hard thing to come by. It has to be grown. Very, very seldom do people just walk into the same room, sit down, and hit it off. It does happen. It's very, very, very rare. I can think of several morning show teams who were very clunky when they first got started and turned out being very, very good at what they did on the air and being very, very good friends to this day, even though they have gone on to other endeavors. So you're right about that. That gives us some guidelines, I believe, where we can grow and where we can get better at this. So I appreciate the feedback. I really do. I mean, we plan a little bit and we try to have a lot of fun on here, but it takes work. We've made no secret about that. So thank you for recognizing what work it does take. So let's take it and run with that. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate them very much. I do. I really do.
Boy, he's
good enough.
Pro there. I had sound effects playing. Let's see. Let me I had a few more, but he's got me all in a happy mood. Bernie, you've been doing this longer than both of us combined times 8. So when have you seen a duo or trio just not work out? But don't worry, I don't think we're there. I think we're fine. I'm sure you have in your time seen some pairings that were either just a pairing of convenience or a pairing that was forced or maybe something to try. And at some point, like, it was just kind of clear this isn't going to happen. How do you know when that's not going to happen?
The key word, and you hit on it, was when the pairings were forced. In both instances that I'm thinking of now, they were both forced. And the first instance, it was a male-female show, and they brought in another female, which is not bad, it's good, but the third female was trying to be a co-host with the host, who was a male, trying to co-host that, and then kind of subvert the other female co-host in just to kind of a routine maintenance mode for the show, you know, and it didn't work. It lasted 3 weeks, and girl number 3 was out.
Okay.
Not a bad person, just because those personalities did not mesh. She needed a show of her own where she could have those other roles filled, you know, with her and support her.
Right.
Number 2, again, was forced. And this dynamic was a little bit different. There was a male leader on the show, a female, and in this case, button pusher and color commentator type person. And the station hired a producer role to help these other 2 out, to provide material for them, to help keep them on track, to filter phone calls, really more of a producer role where she was going to have an active role. And one of the other 2 did not like this person at all. They just did not click, and it was a forced relationship, and it lasted 5 weeks, and that person was gone.
Okay, just to be clear, that last example is not us right now. Are you trying to sugarcoat it? Come on, say it.
He's thinking too hard.
Just email, that would give it away. So,
no, I think we're onto something here, because here's how I know, or here's why I think it's good. I listen to this show as a fan. I don't ever listen to Muscle Car Place. It's because Muscle Car Place is a solo show, number 1. Number 2, it's because you, Bernie, I entrust implicitly. I know you're not going to put out anything that wouldn't make us both proud. So this show I listen to because it's so dumb and I in like fun ways. Plus, I love the Dukes of Hazzard content. I love all the automotive content that we do. The game show we did with Corndog and Finnegan last week. I love stuff like that. Don't worry, he's going to be on plenty more. We're going to bring on as many people as we possibly can, because we enjoy the automotive content of it. So I will read you I guess the next iTunes review here. This is from Cowboy Z. Just started listening, sitting around the house with nothing to do. Keeps me laughing, 5 stars. All right, so that's good. This, and Corndog, hopefully the hate mail didn't take you off guard. This should fix it. LS6 Racer. Corndog is awesome. Gonna miss Mike terribly. Kibby, you are awesome as well. Bernie, I can take or leave. The last part is not, that's not there.
Without Bernie, I don't think much of this would happen, though. So
it would go south pretty quickly.
Someone has to fine-tune it.
I got to do something I was really looking forward to. My friend Vincent Aiello hosts a podcast show called the Fighter Pilot Podcast. And at the end of last year, I got to host a kind of year in review where he was the guest on his own show. That was so fun. And one of the questions he had for me was, when did you start getting help in the show, and how did you get it? And Bernie was the first person I referenced that I needed help from. I said, I got to the point where I can't get the guests and think of what to ask and then write it and then produce. I can't do it all. And Bernie was the first person that helped me make that better. And it was so easy because, A, he was a listener. I asked my audience for help. When like fans of yours or listeners of yours will respond, then you kind of know you got a friend. Number 2, he was just overtly qualified. So that was one of the ways that we have started growing, is by getting help there. Scott Stapp is a writer for Muscle Car Place. There's some other really important roles I'm looking to fill that I've reached out to the audience for this year. I mean, so we're kind of on the track there. Last one now here. This is from 16 Cummins. He says, I really enjoyed listening to Kibby and Finnegan. I tried it. Now it's my favorite show. I'm bummed that Mike is leaving, but hopefully he'll be back from time to time. Corndog will be great as co-host. I'm not the biggest Dukes fan. I mostly just enjoy the off-topic talking. And I'll end with that one because I think a lot of our past listeners probably feel that way. We all feel that way. Anytime he wants to come back, he's got a spot right behind Corndog. So, now, should we move on to a little bit of pertinent topic news here? John Schneider's birthday event is, like, legit. Does he really have Kid Rock on there? It's not Sid Rock. Like, he's got Kid Rock coming to his event, like the real guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but Kid Rock had, I think he called it the birthday bash, and he had a hood slide competition, and John Schneider was there for that. I want to say that was maybe during the summer or something.
Last summer?
I think so. I'm trying to remember exactly when it was. It was basically the same thing as Bo's Extravaganza, but John Schneider was there, so he's kind of returned the favor, and supposedly they've been friends for quite a while. So I don't know who reached out to who, but either way, he's supposed to be there just Sunday. You know, it's a Saturday and Sunday event, and he'll be there just Sunday. But yeah, so he just made that announcement. I think it was yesterday, maybe. I think it was.
The promo work is making it look pretty appealing. Bankruptcy has come and gone, it looks like, for John Schneider. He has found a way to make things work. And who came to the event last year? Was it Carl Edwards?
Yeah, it was. He did the backflip and just about face planted in the mud.
Right, okay. Other people coming, Tom Wolpat and Byron Cherry. I'm getting more and more interested in this. I did reach out to the person who sent me contact info, and I haven't heard back yet. But I will hit them up to see if, at a minimum, we could have somebody on, maybe John, to promote this event. It would be neat if 1, 2, or 3 of us could go there. It would be really neat if I could get my General Lee over from Warren Customs down there. And I talked to Nathan about it and said, hey, in the last show I said we're going to do this. I was kind of joking, but do you think we could do it?
I was joking, but maybe I wasn't.
But
so.
Unless it could happen, in which case I'm totally not. So everything's, at this point, still on the table. So that would be
He sent
cool.
me some pictures today, so he's making pretty good progress on it.
He did. I meant to thank you. This is what happens when the kids grow up, right? They just don't even need you anymore. But I needed backup lights put in the rear valence, and he didn't even bother coming to me to go to you to get the measurements to cut the holes in the right spot.
Yeah.
He just went direct to you and got it done. He told me about it later, like.
And I just happened to have an original valence panel that was cut off of a car, and I'm a pack rat, so for whatever reason I kept it. There was nothing really wrong with it, but I thought maybe it'd look cool hanging on the wall. So I just took measurements off of it. Hopefully they worked pretty good. They look like they did, so.
They sure did. We'll see if we can stick some pictures in the video of this. But yeah, he's dressing the tail out of the car, so he's got, because he could not take the paintwork on the taillight panel, he sanded it down and repainted it black. It's got the new to me taillights in it, the original set with the good chrome in there. It now has the backup lights in it. I think the next thing is the trim. What do you call the trim that goes around the taillight panel?
Just breaks it up, yeah, just the taillight trim.
Taillight trim, throw a new bumper on it. It's going from the back, it'll look, well, to real nerds, they'll think, whoa, it's a totally different car. And to everybody else, it will look exactly the same. But
it looks the same.
It will be really awesome. But with that John Schneider event, the other big event that has a lot of promo is the Muscle Kings events. Well, first of all, this is the one that John Schneider was a part of and has opted out of, and as far as I know, has not opted back into.
Yeah.
Is that still the case as far as you are aware?
I think so. The last update I heard as far as his part in it. And the reason why was because they had a pretty nice promo, and you really don't even notice it, but the General Lee that they used in the promo did not have a flag on it. And so that upset a lot of people, but I watched it probably 2 or 3 times and never realized that it didn't have a flag on it. And then once people started pointing it out, because you and I even talked about it, and
yeah,
so
we texted.
Maybe they went back and changed the footage or something, but it was the same footage.
You know, for two friends that don't get along and never talk, we talk so much, and we went back and forth on that one many times, and we really did think, like, it was always this way. No, they didn't go edit this video. My guess is they just used a car to shoot their promo video and probably didn't even notice it didn't have a flag.
Right.
Because it's not really a great General Lee replica that they used. It was 68, number one. It had all blacked out trim. It wasn't a car a real Dukes fan would use. Now, here's the flip side. I don't know the details of this, but they're bringing back, I think, the only surviving RT, real screen-used General Lee, with their events. And this car was overseas. It's getting shipped back.
The owner that had that car, he's had the car since sometime in the 90s, and he just recently put that car up for sale, and it's the only surviving of the TV series cars, the only RT surviving car. So the guy over in Germany, he just bought the car, and he had it just long enough to do a photo shoot and then worked out a deal with these guys here for the show, and he just loaded it up and sending it back over to California. And that's where it actually was sold from, was California.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're paying him or what, but to ship it from Germany to California and apparently shipping it back to Germany, that's going to be a rolling ton.
I sold a 66 Mustang to somebody in Australia, and I think it was $4,000 to ship it.
It's usually about what it costs.
And it was in shipment for a month each way. Well, never got it back, so one way.
You got to do an import approval. You got to submit all these forms and everything just to even get it for them to approve it coming into the country.
Yeah.
My friend in Australia, he's shipped a bunch of vehicles back and forth, and so it gets pretty expensive.
Yeah. My guess, without having any real in-depth knowledge, I did chat with the Muscle Kings people a couple weeks ago to see if we could put something together just to promote their events. This was all prior to the John Schneider snafu. My guess is that they shot a really cool promo and had no idea, didn't even look at the roof of the car, and just got bit by it. It happens, especially with a show that happened 40 years ago, where people that were not even alive are promoting it, maybe. So, there
again, most people, they just see orange 01. It's a General Lee. It could be whatever, and they'll see it the same way.
I frankly was so distracted by the fact that it was a 68 with such crapo trim on it. I didn't even look at the roof of it. What in God's name is going on here? And some other related news, kind of related to the launch of the NASCAR season. I at one point was a decently casual NASCAR fan. I followed it throughout the season. I'm not that case anymore, but I do pay attention to the Daytona 500, especially here in Iowa, where like January and February on Sunday afternoons, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to go outside. There's just nothing to do. Unless you have a heated shop, you have some time to kill. So I did pay attention to the entire Daytona 500. I am a huge fan of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he has his own podcast network. And last year, it got picked up by NBC Sports as part of his deal here. I would like to play you guys a very long... It's a clip that's too long to play in a podcast, but I'm going to play it for you anyway. And I want you to hear his interview about why they make their show and what they're planning to do with it. There are a lot of parallels with us here, so just listen in, and for those of you watching, you should see it.
Are you excited that your Dale Jr. download will now be a TV show?
Yeah, I am. I mean, this is what you hope that happens if you start a podcast or anything like that and cultivate it over a long period of time. You hope that maybe it turns into something cool, and we'll see how it translates over to TV. We've been doing a lot more video clips this year, and we've actually had them on NASCAR America throughout some of the weeks. And what happens is everybody comes back to us and says, well, where's the whole thing? Or I want to see more. And this is going to give them that opportunity. It'll be every Thursday, a 30-minute show, and look forward to it.
Alfredo stole my question. No, I'm just saying. No, I want to. How much preparation and time do you put into that, or is it just like kind of these things get put together and you like to go off the cuff and not really know that much about what you're going to do?
The best part about it is to just sit down. The more we prepare, the more sort of scripted it sounds. Yeah. So for us to be conversational and it to be fun and odd, interesting topics to actually come up, we just sit down and start. And Mike Davis is in there with me, Matthew Dillner. A lot of people recognize Matthew when they see him. Matthew's been a huge boost for the podcast. He does a lot of the social media stuff that people see now that we weren't doing before. He does all the video clips and so forth. But it's just organic. We sit down and just start talking about what we've been up to. And we all really like each other, so that helps. So we enjoy. It's really a time we're catching up. What's going on? What's happening in everybody's life?
There's more to that, and even that was probably too long, but I thought you guys might get a kick out of that. There's a lot of parallels in there, and what he's saying, without saying it, is the dream he has for that show is the same one I think we all kind of have for this. It's like it's a Dan Patrick show about cars. To be a very mainstream show. Now, right now, our shtick is the Dukes of Hazzard, because we like that and we're good at it. But there's a lot more out there that we can chat about. But what do you guys think? Even Dale Jr. shows up half prepared, right? That's good news.
Yeah.
I agree with not being totally prepared. I also agree with having an outline of where you want to end up. One of the cardinal rules is know how to get out and know where you're going. And that leaves still plenty of freedom to go where you want to in a given span of time. So I'm glad that we're following those disciplines on this show. Absolutely.
Speaking of following disciplines, in my outline, I'm at the segment that says Bernie on the news. Even though you have your own stuff you're going to put in here, I would like from this point forward, anytime you're on, I would like you to be introduced via helicopter. I can't hear you now. Damn this helicopter. Bernie, do you have any news for us?
You notice I said nothing because I knew you weren't going to be able to hear anything.
Yes.
With our current technology. So, all right, you want some news? I got a couple of news things.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A little history lesson here. Any of you ever heard of, it's an old name, Nikola Tesla? Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's the car, but the car came much later. Do you know what he did? Do you know what one of his big achievements was, or one of his big ideas?
Gee, I'm trying to remember. Isn't Tesla, is it a unit of energy? I can't remember. He's the scientist. It has something to do with electricity.
That's close enough.
Yeah, something.
I'll give you that one. Yeah. One of his things was he had a grand scheme of ideas that in this modern day, when you drove down the street, you wouldn't see poles with electrical wires on them like we do today. He had what was called a Tesla ball, and it was a tower that had a big ball on the top of it, and it would emit AC electricity, and that's how things would be powered. You know, how they measured it and how you would pay for it, I have no idea how all that worked. The point is that just south of me in a little community, I saw this when we were coming in from out of town a few weeks ago. There is a Tesla ball built and funded by a university, and it's a big tower. It's got a great big ball on the top of it. And I looked at it and said, that looks familiar. Looks like a Tesla ball. And we were speculating about what it might be. So I went back and looked it up, and sure enough, that's what it is. That's what they're doing. But they're not going to be using it for power so much as maybe radio signals, or maybe later on internet distribution or something like that. They're just kind of playing with it. But it was that same idea, and I thought that was really cool. That, here we are, 100-plus-year-old technology is coming back around to service in the modern age once again.
That is pretty fascinating. I mean, that could be an applicable idea today. Think about getting power into places where there is no power. What if you could actually wirelessly transmit power? I mean, we can kind of do some of that now, wirelessly transmit power. You guys have the phones that can wirelessly charge?
My phone has the option, but I don't have one of the chargers.
Well, mine doesn't work, but it can be done from what I'm told.
It doesn't have a wire for it to make it work. That's why.
Yeah, I would have to plug in the other thing that makes it wireless, and I don't have that thing. So okay, yeah, that's cool.
The other thing is kind of in our wheelhouse. I get a lot of subscriptions to different e-magazines and things. Maybe you guys have seen this one from Power and Performance. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yes.
Yes.
One of their writers, Rob Finkelman, put out an interesting thing about the wide-body versions of Chargers that were speculated for the 2020 model. I'll quote you what he says here. Again, this is Rob Finkelman, for full disclosure and full credit, from the Power and Performance group. Quote, after a couple of years of rumors that Dodge would be releasing a wide-body version of the Charger as a companion to the Challenger RT Scat Pack wide-body, Challenger SRT Hellcat wide-body, and Challenger SRT Hellcat Red-Eye wide-body, it seems that this will now come to pass for the 2020 model year. And then according to his sources, the SRT Charger Hellcat and Charger RT Scat Pack will be available in the wide-body treatment. It's understood that both cars will receive drastically different looking front and rear fascias as to incorporate the Charger body lines with the fender flares and so forth. And the side sills are also being redesigned for the wide body cars. So does that mean they're trying to not make it ugly? I'm trying to get a picture for what he's talking about here, but it looks like they're doing a lot of work to make the plastic look good.
Well, if Corndog reads it for the articles, I'm going to flat out admit I don't read the articles. I just look at the pictures. That goes for lots of magazines. But I don't know. I've seen lots of different renderings of wide body cars of all creed, shapes, and colors. I can tell you right now that the wide body package that came out on the I guess the Hellcat Challenger that's kind of made its way into many of the high performance versions of it now is really good looking. I have really come to like it. It's to the point now where when I see one without a wide body, it starts to look weird to me. Yeah. Keep in mind, this and the Charger, these are still updated versions of platforms released 10 years ago, maybe more. I mean, they've been out there a long time.
Yeah.
05, yeah. So even longer. And my understanding is those platforms were both based on like late 80s, mid 90s E-body Mercedes-Benz. This is like back in the Daimler Chrysler days, so...
I think they call it the LX platform. I know that's what it was at one time. I don't know if it still is. Which I think was maybe off of the old not the Intrepid.
Well, anyway.
Or the Chrysler 300. Anyways, I just wonder why they can't figure out how to make it a two-door. Most Charger fans, that's what they want.
I would love to see a two-door Charger. We have hit an age, though, where, I mean, the only car Ford is going to have is the Mustang. That will be their only car. They're dropping every other car and they're switching to SUVs. They've given up. Chevy is going to be very similar. You got a Camaro and a Corvette, and I think that'll be about it. And everything else will be an SUV. The electric cars that everybody offers is kind of its own niche category. I would put that more in electric vehicle category than even car. It's just electric. We're still in this little sliver of a window of amazing overhead valve, push rod, V8 gasoline performance. I think it will come to an end before the end of the 2020s. Let's just get while the getting's good.
And that may be what the manufacturers are thinking too, just trying to milk it for all it's worth.
People are certainly doing something they haven't done for a long time, which is speculative buying. They buy 2 Challengers, 2 Chargers, one to drive and one to park, just thinking it might work out. It's happening. Bernie, great stuff, man.
Thanks.
Pro. Yeah. All done. Well, that worked out well. Because now it's time to get to the company that has chosen to not only pay for this show, but shave our faces. Corndog, do you have your copy in front of you?
I do.
Okay. I'm going to lay in some background music here for you. And you're going to help me get through this. And you're going to choose the background music. Background music option number 1. A favorite of mine, Little Spanish Flea. Okay. So can you hear that version there?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I do.
That's an option. Very happy, very upbeat. I usually lay those in the back of game shows. Here's the other one. This is a different theme. You might remember this from last week. This is Debbie. I got this from YouTube. Let's say that. Would you rather have...
I heard the first part, and I think I know what you were referring to.
Yeah, and I just Googled the music.
Sure.
Okay, so you want this one?
No, we'll go with option A. It sounds a little bit more
a little
fitting.
Cleaner, a little happier. Bernie usually lays in something even funnier, but I'm trying to take his job, you know.
Sounds like music from Let's Make a Deal.
Yeah, it's more game showy. Okay. What do you love most about shaving with Harry's Corndog? I can tell you what I love. The clean, close, comfortable shave that gets me kisses every single time. Very important to me to get the kisses. In fact, if I don't get a kiss, I know that I probably didn't do a good job. And if I didn't do a good job, I wasn't using the Harry's razor. Ha ha! Your thoughts on that? Yes.
Yeah, my wife always prefers when I shave too, and she can tell when I get scruffy.
I have hit the age where I used to be a person who could get away with shaving every other day. That has now ended. And with a clean shave, you really notice the next day, like if you are not clean shaved, because a Harry's razor is going to leave it. I mean, it's like baby bottom smooth, which I was not used to. I used the kind of the more common off the shelf options for years, and that's not how Harry's rolls.
Like a brand new paved road, nice and smooth.
Yes, as smooth as paved asphalt across a Mississippi plain. So let us tell you about Harry's. Harry's founders were tired of paying for razors that were overpriced and overdesigned. They knew a great shave didn't come from gimmicks like vibrating heads, flex balls, or handles that look like spaceships. Tactics that the leading brand has used to raise prices for decades. Those leading brand decade price razors. They have fixed this problem by combining a simple, clean design with quality, durable blades at a fair price. All blades come with a 100% quality guarantee. They have replacement cartridges at just $2, and that's a lot cheaper than the competition. Little Spanish Flea, I have re-engaged. So, Corndog, what is our call to action for our customers right here?
To get a $13 value trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave, weighted ergonomic handle, 5-blade razor with lubricating strips and trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel, travel blade cover. Listeners of our show can redeem their trial set at harrys.com/KAFS. Make sure you go to harrys.com/KAFS to redeem your offer and let them know that we sent you there to help support our show.
Listeners, you need to know something straight up. Harry's, MeUndies, companies like this come back to us because you're buying. So, A, thank you for buying because they came back. They will only keep coming back if you keep buying. So, from us to you, please keep buying. And I also promise you're getting stuff that's really, really good. I read a phenomenal article recently on why certain advertisers use the podcast model, and companies like MeUndies and Harry's are frankly killing it with the podcast market because they get one-on-one stuff with really close audiences. You don't need an enormous show to have a very successful advertiser relationship with them. So that's okay. I think now is the time for the Dukes of Hazzard review.
Just a good old boy, never meaning no harm.
And it's been a while since we've done an episode. This is season 4, episode 14, titled The Dukescam Scam, written by Bruce Howard, directed by Denver Pyle, original air date January 1st, 1982, New Year's Day, 1982. The Commodore 64 was just hitting the shelf. The old VIC-20 had just been parked outside. Atari was all the rage. And Boss Hogg was fanking the old bank robbery, guilting Uncle Jesse into paying back a 40-year debt, once again proving debt is dumb. And then Uncle Jesse witnesses Jesus Christ to him in a moment of weakness. They both make it out, and Boss then forgets that lesson completely. Isn't that nice? The Christian values in this show are what people remember. I would just like to point out in the first few episodes, they sold slot machines and helped hookers across county lines.
And hooked up with cousins.
Here's the good news. The General Lee was in there in the beginning and will be there in the end. So that's what's consistent about here. A few interesting things here that I would like to get your insightful commentary on. Number one, the most obvious, is the return of my cars back. The small push bar dark interior. My stuff is back. What order was this filmed in? Was this an actual season 4 episode, or is this from a previous year, or just out of order?
This was actually filmed in 81. Well, of course, it was filmed in 81, but it was really early 80. It was early 81. It was about the same time that this one filmed the prior year. Actually, it was filmed at the very end of season 3.
So this was maybe a season 3 episode that just never got used. It
was filmed during that time. It was the third last episode of the third season.
What is also interesting about this, and I haven't counted, we're halfway through season 4, and this was a 7-series season, so I think we're about halfway through the entire series right now.
Yeah, this one was right in between Byline Daisy Duke and The Great Hazard Hijack, so it fell in right in there. But yeah, it was probably about midway because, they're getting ready to move to the more traditional looking General Lee. That was about halfway through, maybe a little bit towards the end of it. But yeah, the cars, by then they look very similar from car to car.
That was obviously the first thing that I took away from it. I watched this episode, so we're recording this at night. My daughter was very sick this morning, so I stayed home with her. But the good news was I had a little buddy to watch this episode with me, so I took my notes as I went. And here are my notes in order of the show. That was question number 1, is like, what order was this? Because the small push bar is back. Next note. Is the soundstage car a real saddle interior car? It looks like the upholstery is lighter than the dash. And the VIN tag was black.
Right. That's the easy giveaway. And plus the dash frame and pad, they're fairly dark. But yeah, anytime you see the VIN plate painted over, either tan or brown or whatever, then you know it was a different color interior. Or it could have been a saddle interior and they just freshened it up. But yeah, that one definitely looks like a factory saddle interior car.
It has me wondering, even though we have now gone to the painstaking efforts with Nathan Warren at Warren Customs, God bless him, to find a paint match to this custom interior that I got from Legendary, kind of makes me still wonder if maybe we should still go just a tick darker on the dash anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt because there's a lot of light that shines in on the dash, so it will end up looking lighter if you went with the same color as the rest of the interior, just because the light does shine in on the top of the dash. So if you did want to go darker on the actual dash frame, that wouldn't be bad.
See if Nathan hears this and chimes back in, because we had this conversation. I said, no, man, I just want it all one color because that's what I want. I know what I'm doing.
It really wouldn't matter one way or the other.
Probably not.
What about sun fade later on? Are you accounting for that? Because all this wasn't brand new.
Sure.
I don't know.
He threw a monkey wrench in the whole setup.
Threw a monkey in my wrench. That doesn't help me at all. I just want it to look cool. So that's what I really want. Next question. Who is the actor who plays Emery Potter? He makes a few different appearances. I think the actor's name is Charlie Dell. Do you have any background bio on him? Is he a guy that's still out there and alive?
I have not looked him up, but usually every time that he has been on the Dukes, he always plays the role of Emery Potter. Sometimes you'll see characters in the series that will play two different characters, or two or three.
Yeah.
And so every time he's been on, he has been, quote unquote, Emery Potter. It seems like I've seen him on other shows, maybe, with similar roles, just real low-key roles.
So I just pulled up his IMDb. I could swear that he was in MASH. I don't see that on here. But he was in Simon & Simon, Riptide, Fantasy Island, Flying High, the TV series, and it looks like he's still working. As of 2017, he was in a TV series called Feud, and he played the role of a minister. He was also, he's in some type of Star Command. I think he was an alien in Star Command. I've never heard of Star Command, but he was in it, and he does look like an alien. There's a Toyota pickup in here. With a push bar on it. And you see it multiple times. I have been sent multiple screenshots from multiple people or pictures of the push bar that you would have bought in the late 70s for a Toyota pickup truck that sure looks a hell of a lot like what gets used on the General Lee.
I'm glad I didn't send it to you because I was going to.
Okay. Because of the way that I watched this one, so when you watch it on the DVDs in standard definition format, 4:3 screen, you get it as it was shot back then. When you're watching it in HD on Amazon Prime or on any other HD platform, well, it's not shot in HD. They're simply zooming in to put it in a 16:9 frame, and you cut off some of the edges to make that happen. So when I saw it in HD, I could only see a bit of the Toyota pickup. But when I went and looked for screenshots, I could see the whole thing. So did you see the front end of that truck? Was it wearing a General Lee push bar, or was it wearing a real push bar for a Toyota?
I think it was an actual, not Toyota brand, but, made for the Toyota. I watched it in HD, and when I watched it on DVD, I just couldn't get a clear enough image. I tried to screenshot it, and I just couldn't get a good detailed image. And so I went back to the HD and took a screenshot from it. So that could very well be what they started with and then built off of. I even Googled some images of, I think it's a 79 Toyota, 7980 maybe.
Well, the round headlight Toyotas is kind of what I think of when I think of that body style. It's the body style that predates Marty McFly, for those of you that would get that reference.
Right. I think I looked on 78 even, and 77, and they had 4 headlights, and the 79 started with the single headlight. I don't know much about Toyota trucks, but so I started looking 79 Toyota push bar or brush guard or whatever, and I found a couple images, but they weren't the same exact one that you see on Duke's episode, so it could have been just a different brand, the pictures that I was finding. So do a little bit more digging, and you might be able to find what it actually was for.
Has anybody listening come across one of these things? Does anybody have one? Because that would be pretty amazing to actually have one to use as a reference, because I really think that's it. Nathan Warren sent me one from a different Toyota, and it has a third bar. There's the top two that you're kind of used to, and then down in the uprights, like way at the bottom of the uprights, there's yet a third bar that goes across down there.
Probably to protect the lower part of the radiator, maybe.
Yeah.
We discussed it a million times on the forums back in the day, and all we could ever come up with was small truck push bar.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at a number of images off of the interweb of that truck, and I only see 2 with push bars. Both of them appear to be homemade. There's one shot of one truck that's got bumper guards, 2 little front teeth bolted to the bumper, but I don't see it. There are 50 plus pictures here I'm looking at, maybe more, and that's the only 2 I see. It could be a borrowed thing. I'd be all right with that.
It could be, but the Toyota especially seems to fit just the bill. I remember a guy in high school had one of those trucks, and I don't have a single picture of it, but I remember that push bar looking just like that. Here's another note in here. The gist of the episode is that Boss Hogg literally tricks the Dukes into, Uncle Jesse specifically, into paying his bail from jail. And why is he in jail? He's in jail because he was arrested for robbing the bank. Well, why? Supposedly. Well, why did he rob the bank? Because when they went in the bank vault and opened it up, the money was gone, and he was the last guy in there. Well, all he had done was move the cash from one side of the safe to the other. Apparently, that was enough to cause the kerfuffle, but he did this on purpose, intending to get caught and intending to enact a debt from Jesse Duke from 30 to 40 years earlier when they were running moonshine. And Jesse, of course, being the honorable man, pays the debt by mortgaging his farm to get it. And it's sorted out pretty quickly. Though the scapegoat in here, though, is Emery Potter. Emery Potter is the only other man in Hazard that has the combination to the bank. He's a teller at the bank. He works there. And Boss Hogg sends Emery to his fishing cabin with one order: don't get seen by the Dukes. So Emery goes out there, and it's the greatest fishing cabinet, and it's just one more thing in here that is a nice little touch. What's the name of the boat that's leaning, the ramshackle little crappy boat that doesn't even have a motor, that's laying outside of the fishing cabin?
I saw it, but I don't remember what it was. I remember seeing something and thinking something about it, but what was it?
The SS Hogg.
SS Hogg. Everything was Hogg.
Well, I have zero desire to have a political conversation, but much like the president, everything has the name on it.
Yeah.
Trump brand steaks, Trump brand college. Clearly, if Boss Hogg were still here today, he would have a line of raw liver. I'm sure he would.
That was so nasty watching him eat that.
That was quite disgusting.
And he's talked about that too, and they've asked him, well, was that real raw liver and all that? And he said, the only way you're going to be able to do it is to eat the real thing. And so every time he did it, he was eating real legit raw liver.
Like Sorrel Book was interviewed and like he ate it.
And you think about the very first episode, he was eating it and it was all a bloody plate of liver. It was nasty.
There's a scene where James Best, much like me right now, is about to lose his cookie. So it kind of makes you oh, that was real. Here's the next one. When they pick up Emery Potter, John Schneider and Tom Wopat are fully in camera, and they're the guys driving the car up that catches Emery. And then they pile Emery into this General Lee and rip the bejesus out of there. And it is a pretty awesome scene that they do it. If you're listening, the car is either, if it's a stick, it's out of gear, or it's an automatic. I can't tell. This is the one time I thought, I wonder if that was a stick, because it's got a real high idle while it's just sitting there running. And then when they get in it, you hear, oh. It's hard to tell because they would just drop it in gear at full throttle anyway. But it sounded to me like he was jamming it in reverse. And then when he whipped it around to do a 180 in reverse, he pulled it into second gear and just stood on it and stood on it all the way out the camera scene. I could not tell.
And I almost wonder if they just leave it in neutral, and then it kind of does the same thing. You know, you don't have to actually push the button and throw it into gear. You can just rev it up in neutral and slap it into gear, and it'll go. So I almost wonder if that's what they did.
Could be. I know Corey Eubanks has been interviewed and said that he never, ever drove a General Lee that wasn't an automatic. I think Jumpin' John Cade, had mentioned that he did do that once. But the way that they were harnessed in the cars was such that if it were a stick, you couldn't shift. Right. Like he could not physically reach anything. So I think he'd either start in second. They'd probably just do it all in second gear and just wind it out because it's a one and done type stunt. Some other ones in here where they showed the jump over the pond from multiple angles. When it goes over the pond, you see the exhaust just streaming black soot smoke out of both pipes. I've always wondered if that was a nitrous shot because, fuel is soot. That's why you know.
Right.
what it is.
I've often wondered if it was that, or also you think about all the dirt that they stir up and it goes right into the path of the exhaust and it's really streaming out dirt. It's actually like sucking it up and blowing it out.
Paul Picard, the second unit director, used so much extra imagery to convey speed in this show. Leaves. That was the big thing that he would do. He would always make sure that leaves were on the road when the General Lee went driving by.
That was Baxley's.
Oh, sorry, not Picard. Baxley. Yeah, kick all the leaves up, make it look even faster. And I noticed that in this one on both dirt and asphalt. There were lots and lots of leaves.
Yeah, the stunt crew, they always talk about having leaf duty. If they weren't doing the stunts, they were out on leaf duty, gathering up leaves and spreading them out on the roads and all that.
Go to Hollywood, be a star, they said. Here's a rake.
Yeah.
I did like this episode. Another Denver Pile episode. When Uncle Jesse does refer to the friend that he has behind the pearly gates, I will admit that did choke me up a little bit. The way he delivers it is really good. I thought that the episode was really well acted. I liked it. What do you guys got for stars? I'm going to give this one actually an 8. I know it's formulaic. I know there's only a few good stunts, and I know there's one jump that we see from like 18,000 angles, but I liked it. This one fit the formula for me. I give this an 8 solid Corndogs, the food, not the man rating.
I had one blooper for you. Not really a blooper, but I guess it's a storyline mix-up or whatever. But at the very beginning of the episode, they show Bo, Luke, Jesse, and Daisy riding in the General Lee, going into town to pay the mortgage. And then basically everything happens in the bank. Bo, Luke, and Jesse go to leave after he bailed them out. Then they leave and then turn around and go back to town and go to Cooter's garage. And then they CB to Daisy, who is at the Duke farm. But she rode into town with them.
Oh, yeah.
You never see her leave or go back or in the Jeep or whatever. So that was one thing. And the other thing I noticed, too, was when Boss Hogg goes to leave town, he goes to skip town, leaving the courthouse, and hops in his Cadillac. And then if you listen to the starter, it's the infamous Dodge starter.
Oh, yeah. Is that a gear reduction thing? Is that
they dubbed
sounds like that?
Yeah, it is. From a parking lot, you can hear a Dodge starter. And it's the same way. I can hear it now with Honda starters. I can hear when a Honda cranks up. It's the same thing. They just have that infamous sound. A lot of it, like the Duke farm, the Boar's Nest, a couple other scenes, a lot of stuff was shot on the sound stage.
Yes, it was.
You didn't see the real Boar's Nest, and you didn't see the real Duke farm. And then also when they were chasing Boss Hogg, when he was trying to get out of town or whatever, at the very beginning, and they all pulled the 3 cars together. That's on a soundstage. Mm-hmm. And so for whatever reason, there was a lot of soundstage work for this episode.
Is that more indicative of a season 3 type thing?
I saw that and I thought, well, maybe they're in the middle of transferring buildings, because, when they were shooting at Golden Oaks and then went to Lake Sherwood, they kind of had the Duke house set up and the Boar's Nest set up. They would just tear down the building or dismantle the building, move it to the new location and rebuild it. And so I kind of wondered if maybe they were in the middle of moving buildings. But then I watched the next episode just for a couple scenes, and they were all in the same place.
Yeah.
I give this one about a 7.
About a
7 to 8.
So I'm at an 8. You're at a 7. Bernie, do you have a Corndog rating for this episode?
I would call it probably not seeing this episode, but just sitting back and regaling in the tales of the episode by you two wonderful storytelling, weaving, artistic-minded scholars.
Do you have a rating?
I'm getting.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it could have been the weather while they were on the sound stage. I mean, it does rain. Yeah. You don't want to get anyone's hair wet. That would cost a fortune in makeup.
Heaven forbid.
I give it an 8 just based on your guys' storytelling abilities and your ability to spin a weave. I love it.
Well, great.
And pick out pointless details.
We got to pick them out, especially on the car while we can, because once we make the transition, it will get harder and harder to do so. But I think, without any scientific proof of any kind, I think we are at least halfway through, if not a little past halfway through, reviewing all the episodes now. So I did show my kids a Coy and Vance episode, especially with Byron Cherry having just done an interview on this show. They are a little confused. Why? Who are these guys?
I had to explain it to my son, too. He didn't get it. And I just said, Bo and Luke went to race NASCAR, and they had to help on the farm. That's basically what the storyline was. I didn't tell him any different, and he's okay with that.
The Amazon picture for season 4 is Coy and Vance. They've got the wrong picture up.
I think that was an exceptionally, upon reflection, now we've had a couple of weeks to think about this, an exceptionally brave move by the studio to do that.
Yeah.
There was no replacement for Laverne and Shirley. They didn't have cousins or any other show like that, where you have two main staple characters. I know it wasn't the Bo and Luke show, but essentially it was. I mean, that's pretty brazen to take those two characters out that you've established and try to plug these two in for a while to kill some time. I don't know how they would have done it with another show or with that one. I don't have another answer, but I think you think back on the other shows that were like that, because clearly other shows were trying to follow a similar formula with that.
They must truly have thought and maybe had compelling enough evidence that said, this is bigger than those two. It's mostly about the car, and we are making an absolute obscene fortune on the toys. In the Byron Cherry interview that we ran in the last episode as we record this, I went and got one more clip from Tom Wopat at the 40th anniversary event at Cooters in Nashville. Is the only time I've actually heard him speak on this, and somebody from the crowd asked him why this happened. And he just answered it flat out and said, probably in the end, it was a mistake. The way that they sued Warner Brothers ticked Warner Brothers off to the point where Warner Brothers was pretty sure that they could crush these guys, and they did. They sued for like 20 or 25 million and were sued back for 150 to
200.
Yes, a very significant number. It was kind of one of those things where nobody won. The show, interestingly enough, survived another year and a half, but it never really seemed to recover. You would never see that today. They would not try to replace characters with duplicates.
Well, they had 2.5 Men when Charlie Sheen had his ordeal.
They did, but
Ashton Kutcher came in, but it was never the same. I liked it when Charlie Sheen was on it.
So that's a good example. That's not a show I really know that well, but my understanding is that Ashton, who I went to high school with, his name is Chris Kutcher is how I remember him. He is a different character than Charlie in there. Like, they're not carbon copies of each other. We should end this now. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. You can find the show in iHeartRadio, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher. Leave us a rating in iTunes. By all means, any rating you want. The better or worse it is, the better your chances of being heard on the air. Mopar Fan 176. I think that's who you were. Back at you.
Come again.
We do a special edition of this show for our Patreon audience, and that is where you, the listener, can support this show with dollars. So thank you for buying products, and thank you for supporting on Patreon. The Patreon show is just for Patreon supporters, and you can go to patreon.com/KF show. More than just shows there. We send out swag packs every now and then, and it's a fun place to discuss stuff that isn't ever going to go out on the main airwaves. We can't stick that type of stuff in iTunes, and we're not gonna. That's why you put it in Patreon. So, also, you may have noticed we have a brand new Kibbe and Friends YouTube channel, which we will be publishing as much content to as possible. Be sure to subscribe to that. Tell your friends and neighbors, and I think that's about it. So, I don't know what you have there, Bernie. Is that a dead cat or a monkey or something?
It's the monkey on my back.
The monkey on your back says it is time to go. So everybody, thank you for listening. Corndog, Bernie, I'll catch you later. And everybody, we'll see you next time.
Later.
Hi, guys and gals. Bernie, your show producer here. And because of the Kibbe and Friends show, the next internet phenomenon. Yeah, it's going to happen. Just stay tuned. You'll see. Well, what's going to happen now are the clips that we've pulled for you for this week's episode. And as always, it's just a little bit of icing on top of the cake to help tell the story a little bit better, something you may not have gotten out of the synopsis that was provided in the show. That's why we do the clips, and to have a little bit of fun. So, here they are in order of the show. And don't forget, if you are one of our many Patreon supporters, we have a special show just for you, and it's coming out soon. If you're not a Patreon supporter, you can check that out as well. We'd love to have you part of that family with a lot of exclusive content. And speaking of content, we have our very own YouTube channel that's being populated with fun stuff even as we speak. So look for that as well. Okay, here are the clips in order. Hope you enjoy.
You said yourself.
I know what I said, but this is different.
No, it ain't different, Uncle Jesse. It's Boss Hogg. Nothing's
just
different.
Hush, hush, and hear me out. See, 45 years ago when me and J.D. was running Shine together, why, there come a day when it was the other way around. The revenuers arrested me and threw me in jail. Yeah, that's right.
And J.D. here, he could have turned his back on me, but he didn't.
That's right.
He sold his end of the shine and used the money to get me out of jail, which is what I'm going to do for him right now.
Oh, I was just thinking.
About what? Tell me about it, J.D.
Well, I was wondering if you'd promise me we'd stay friends when we both go through them pearly gates.
I promise.
That is, if I make it in that direction.
You'll make it, J.D. I got a friend there.
Even though I tried to cheat you out of your phone.
Even though.
Hallelujah.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Just hold it. Hold it. We do this every week. I know you love the clips, but just hold on a second. As long as we're here, I wanted to give you something just a little bit unique. Now, you heard the synopsis of the Dukes of Hazzard show inside the show, but I wanted to give you something different. Behind the scenes, the recorders were running when Rob was watching the show with his sweet daughter, Noelle. And she was kind enough to give us a synopsis of the show in her own words. I want you to hear that as we close out today. Noelle, the stage is yours.
Noelle is going to give her review of this episode of Dukescam Scam, which you told me you saw by yourself before we watched it again.
No, I watched it with you.
Great. Thank you. Well, can you please review the plot of it and tell people what it's about?
So, Boss Hogg got into jail purposely so he could steal the Duke farm from Jesse because he paid money to get him out of jail. But what? But it was actually a trick, and so he went to a secret hideout in a truck to hide for this thing that would, what's it called?
What are you talking about?
When they go to that place, and if he's not there, he will.
To the judge? He has to go report to the judge?
Yeah, but he didn't.
He didn't, so he's
He
in
didn't show
contempt of court. So the bail was forfeited, and the bail was from who?
Jesse.
Yes. Do the Dukes win in the end?
Yes.
Does Uncle Jesse and Boss nearly die because there's no air?
Yes. They got locked up in, what's it called?
A vault.
A vault. And then there's this guy that, Bo and Duke needed to get, but before this happened, Boss Hogg told him if he let the Dukes see him, he would lose his job. But in the end, they got him there, and he fainted, but Duke knew the combination because he said it so many times.
Does Duke mean Luke? Luke?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The end? God, thank you.